Well, hello, good morning, and happy Tuesday to you. Thank you for joining me here on Enlightened World Network. I'm Tomas Garza, and this is A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. And this is so much fun for me to bring my own experience, my own practical experience to you here on a worldwide stage. So this is something that's a lot of fun for me to share with you my experience from this extraordinary spiritual text. In fact, it's more than a text, it's a self-study curriculum. It's A Course in Miracles. And if you are just tuning into this live stream for the first time or have seen it just a couple of times, it's been running since January of this year. And what we're doing here is we're going through it's daily. And what I'm doing is I'm going through the section of A Course in Miracles known as a workbook for students. Today, we arrive at lesson 100. So if you are curious about any back episodes of this, the YouTube channel for Enlightened World Network is a great resource for you, and I highly recommend that you check that out. Again, YouTube, Enlightened World Network, and the network has a playlist for every show on the network. So there you will find A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love, and you'll see all of the back episodes since January of this year, all archived right there. So if there is a particular idea or a particular workbook lesson that you're interested in, you can find the video there. You can also find the recorded live stream on basics about A Course in Miracles, topics such as miracles, forgiveness, and I've had some really wonderful, truly wonderful guest speakers as well that have joined me here on the program. It's often just me, but I have had some guests. So you can check that out on the YouTube channel. Now, thank you all for joining me here. I really appreciate all of your likes, loves, hearts, the shares, and all of the comments that you leave, and I welcome them. So whether you're watching here on Enlightened World Network or whether you're watching on my personal Facebook page, if you have questions or comments about today's material, please leave them in the comment thread. I will get to them both on the live stream and afterwards, because I check these throughout the day in case you're watching this on the replay. So comments, questions about your spirituality in general, how A Course in Miracles interacts, or the specifics that we will cover today, because this is very profound. In fact, they're all very profound. If you're not familiar with the workbook for students, it is a series of 365 ideas. They're very simple, they're very short ideas. There's some commentary and some suggestion for practice. Again, this is a self-study curriculum, not another religion, thank God. It is not intended for you to have to believe anything, but there is an open invitation for you to do the work. That's all. An open invitation for you to do the work, to apply your energy, your love, your will, your willingness to the practice periods as suggested in the workbook. And we'll talk about that today. So, why are we talking about willingness on your part? Well, lesson 100, the lesson we've arrived at. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. All right. Yeah. If you take nothing else away from this live stream, take that. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. Yeah, it is. How could it be otherwise? Really? How could it be otherwise? Something that I can recall saying yesterday that I want to reiterate is that there are people in this world who will respond best to you. In other words, only you can really, truly reach them with your own presentation, with your own message, and with your own demeanor, with your own being. They're meant to respond to you better than anyone else. That's always true. So if any of us refuses the call, what happens? Not only do we do ourselves a disservice, we deprive ourselves of the joy and the happiness that are our birthright, we also deprive someone else. And it is that way because we are all interconnected. So it does not matter what spiritual tradition you practice currently or that you historically come from. We are all interconnected. And how you show up, how you present yourself in the world matters. And it matters deeply and it matters greatly. Why? Because we're energetically impacting everyone else. Your part is indeed essential to God's plan for salvation. That's why there are so many different spiritual traditions, right? That's why there are so many different spiritual related topics. That's why there are so many spiritual themed and related programs. Take a look at the programming of this network, for example. There are a lot of things here, a lot of different people from different backgrounds with different experiences, and we're all saying the same thing. In the end, we're all saying the same thing. Why? Spirituality is universal, and we're all headed for the same place to find out it's not a place, a physical place at all. It's who we really are. So there are many different ways to approach that based on the habits, based on the proclivities, based on the ethnic, the cultural backgrounds, the religious backgrounds of different people. We're all headed to the same place because we're already at the same place. And again, it's not a physical place, it's oneness. One. We are that. We're awakening to that. If you prefer reawakening to that, we're reawakening to that. So, why is it so important that you play your part in God's plan for salvation? Well, we talked about one reason a moment ago. There are people in this world that only you can reach. And it's true. And it could be that you've had an experience that when you share it with them will resonate with them. It will turn a light on in what might be a very dark room. We don't know. Our job is just to show up and to flick that light switch on. And, of course, it's up to the people whom you inspire to do the rest. Now, you can continue to inspire them, or there might be encounters, you may have had some in this lifetime, where you bump into someone just once and they have a profound impact in your life. I mean, it could be something as apparently mundane as walking along a sidewalk and accidentally bumping into somebody. Yeah, maybe that split second of attention paid to bumping into somebody kept you from getting smashed by a car and walking out into the intersection. Or maybe you strike up a conversation with this person, they change your life. We don't know. We don't know. But there are people out there that are going to reach you. There are people that you're going to reach. Your part is absolutely 100% essential. So what do? Well, I encourage you to play that part. I'm doing it. I'm doing my part. Let's all do that. And just imagine the happy, joyful world that would create. Yeah. Yeah. So, lesson 100 makes it very clear that God's plan for each of us is perfect happiness. Now, you will hear people, I know people, that say, happiness is overrated. Well, I mean, that's an attitude that's common enough, but it's not overrated. We all deep down know that we want it, and we just know. Because you're watching this, really, you know. God's will for us is perfect happiness and joy, not suffering. Could perfect love want anyone to suffer? Really? I mean, if you're answering that, if you're thinking about that and you're answering no, I happen to agree with that. And it's not necessary that we all agree with each other. It's not necessary that you agree with everything A Course in Miracles says. In fact, you may resist some of this actively. You might be resisting it right now. And I say, beautiful. Yeah, go ahead and ask questions. I invite each of us to ask questions. And while we're at it, with a sense of what I would consider to be a healthy dose of skepticism, question everything. Yeah, the foundations of everything that you now believe. What we do in the world is we question some things and not others. We leave other things. We forgive some people and not others. Yeah. Anybody relate to that? Yeah, you bet. We leave some stones unturned, and we're going to revisit those. Life is like that, right? If you put something off, it's going to find a way, isn't it, of getting your attention again and again. And it might do it gently for a while, and pretty soon it'll start knocking on your door, so to speak. It might even smack you upside the head, possibly literally. Yeah. It has a way of getting your attention. Why do these things come up? They come up for release. It's going to contribute to our happiness, to our playing our part in God's plan for salvation. God's will, that we'd be happy, fully, 100%, totally happy with no interruptions, pure joy. Is that possible? Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you're headed for that. May not feel like it right now, and that's all right if it doesn't. I understand, because we all have moments. Yeah. Even somebody that's been practicing for a long time, even someone that you see on television or on a video or on a live stream that is teaching, they've had enough experience to feel that it's time to go forward, or they've gotten the call, the message to go forward and teach. Even those people have to stay hyper vigilant. I've got to stay hyper vigilant. Why? Because things still come up for release. They're coming up for release. So in spiritual practice, we orient ourselves toward that frame of mind where we see things not as a harsh punishment, so that we see things not from a victim point of view, but from an inspired and powerful point of view. Yeah, that's the point. They're coming up for release. So when you accept your part in God's plan for salvation, you show up happy. Now, what does it take to show up happy? This is a great question if you're asking it. Well, what does it take for you to be happy? This is something where we can all do some self-inquiry. Take a look at our lives and think about what makes us genuinely happy. Maybe it's cooking a fabulous meal. Maybe it's sleeping in. Yeah. It could be a walk on the beach, a walk in the desert, a long drive, a walk in the woods, just taking 5 minutes and having some quiet breath work with a cup of tea. Yeah, it could be anything. It could be playing with a child or a grandchild or a pet, a dog, a cat, taking care of yourself, anything. It could be anything. What makes you happy? When you show up as happy, then you are a positive example in the world, and the world needs them, doesn't it? I mean, that goes without saying, but let's say it anyway, because the world needs positive examples. It needs you to be a positive example. It needs me to show up as a positive example. All of us, each and every one of us. None of us is different in that way. So what does that look like? Well, I invite you to think about what makes you truly happy and do that. And add to that spiritual practice. Add to that, if you so choose, the practice periods for the workbook for students, where we experience this happiness, where we sit quietly and reach this happiness that is who we really are. When we peel away all of our layers of conditioning and all of the drama, all of the psychodrama that we involve ourselves in the world, everything that makes our head spin, everything that makes us distracted, everything that makes us aggressive, Mhm. Everything that makes us anxious or paranoid or jittery, yeah, name your adjective. What we are without all that is pure joy and pure love. And when you show up that way, you're a mirror. We're all mirrors for people. So what are we mirroring? If you show up in a fit of rage, you're showing a mirror of a fit of rage. People are looking at themselves, they get angry, don't they? They get tense. Now, if you show up as calm, as peaceful, as joyful, laughing, happy, loving, and forgiving, you're a mirror. People see themselves in you. This is really the essential message of today, is that people see themselves in you. So how are you presenting yourself? That's the mirror that they see themselves in. Walk down the street with a scowl, flipping people off, you're going to get the same, right? Walk down the street with a loving carriage, with a loving presence and demeanor, smiling at people, maybe just exuding it. That's what people will see, and they'll respond accordingly. Why? They'll see themselves. We're all mirrors. It's a beautiful, beautiful image, and we're all mirrors for one another. So it's absolutely essential that we do our part in this plan. Now, what does that look like exactly? Well, we each have to ask. Not everybody is going to show up as a spiritual teacher, as a spiritual coach specifically. You may show up completely differently. And another way of reinterpreting today's idea is that it takes all sorts, because it really does. When people say that, it's not just a saying, it's really very true. In spirituality, that's absolutely true. Why? Because there are people in this world that only you will reach. So please reach them. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the comments. And if you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to leave them here in the comment thread. This is a part that I love about broadcasting live here on social media. It's the live interaction. So thank you all for joining me. And we've got a couple people on here today. Isabel, hi, how are you? Thank you for tuning in. So any comments or questions that you all might have, feel welcome to leave them here in the comment thread. And as always, I invite you to take these ideas to heart. You may or may not read the commentary that is there in the workbook that highlights some of the ideas, what we just talked about, and then some and more. Yeah. I recommend you read it because something that Jesus says in here may resonate with you a whole lot more than something I say. Of course, right? It could be that way. It really could. And I recommend that you take a look at and attempt as many of the practice periods in this workbook that you can, because spirituality is all about experience. It's really not about what do you believe or not. It's about experience. So the more you experience the truth of who you are, the more you're able to show up and do your part, because they're all pre-assigned parts. And I think that each of us knows that, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, that's a choice. It's totally a choice whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. But if and when you do, things happen for you. And it's a beautiful thing. All right. So we'll be continuing on tomorrow with lesson 101 here in the workbook. And if you're catching me on the replay, feel welcome to leave comments, questions about this. And the idea of a mirror is very powerful. We're mirrors for each other. So it does, in fact, matter how we show up. So I encourage you at all times to choose love. And if you're not sure what that constitutes, ask. Yeah. Ask your guides, ask your higher self, ask God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. It does not matter the term that you use, but there's divine assistance available. Yeah, at all times. All right. So thank you guys for joining me here, and we will see you again tomorrow. Have a beautiful day.